Last week, the NSCAA brought you a record crowd in Santa Barbara as UCSB knocked off Indiana 3-0. On Friday, they continued their 20-game college package in West Virginia with the Mountaineers and UConn of the Big East. We'll have the highlights of that one. And take a look around at men's college soccer Division I style on the NSCAA Men's College Soccer Review. Hello, everybody. I'm Dean Linke along with Keith Tabatsnik. Welcome to Morgantown, West Virginia. We're at Dick DeLess Soccer Stadium getting ready for the West Virginia Mountaineers and the UConn Huskies. And Keith Tabatsnik, we know this is going to be a good one.
No, it is. I mean, this has been a tight game for 3 years in a row. At 3 years in a row, it's been West Virginia coming out on top. Almost all the time you say it's going to be UConn as the favorite going into it, but maybe not this time around. We might just have to go with West Virginia this time.
All right, we're going to have the highlights a little bit, but before we go to the rankings, talk a little bit about Big East soccer. You know it well, several years at Georgetown.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things about the Big East is that the fact that they play so many games, I think that's one of the things that has always separated the Big East Conference. And coaches in the Big East always feel that they're the toughest conference, whether they're the best from top to bottom every year or not. When you play 11 games, it doesn't matter who you're playing in a conference game. And now that the conferences have expanded so much, it's just even more difficult for them.
Two words from a man who led Georgetown for 22 years. Let's take a look now at the NSCAA rankings. And no surprise, how about Caleb Porter and the job he's doing with the Akron Zips?
Yeah, well, they're 10-0, all right, undefeated still, but it's the way they're doing it really, Dean. I mean, they are 29 goals for and only 2 goals against, just dominating.
And then at number 3, South Florida.
Yeah, we're talking about the Big East right now. Well, South Florida had a loss to Louisville midweek, and that was a big one because it puts them into second place in their division. They're 7-2-1.
Keith, we saw UC Santa Barbara last week, and they were unbelievable.
Yeah, they were, and what's been happening with them before is they've had great games and then dropped off, but this time midweek they beat Cal Poly 1-0. UC Santa Barbara 8-2-1.
John Kerr Jr. getting it done for Duke.
He is, however, a big loss this week. These midweek games for the ACC teams have been a problem. They lose 4-1 to Davidson. Matt Spear's team down there having a big win. Duke standing at 7-3-0.
That's going to hurt. And how about Monmouth?
Robbie McCourt keep doing it. The Northeast Conference, they've been the top of the conference for 4 years since Robbie's come in. They're 9-0-1, 2 games on the weekend coming up.
All right, they flipped the chart already. Let's go right to Louisville.
Yeah, Louisville with that big win over South Florida, top of the Red Division in the Big East. They're 7-1-2.
The Hoosiers lost to Butler.
Yeah, and this is a couple in a row, and they're going to have to be worried out there. Mike Freitag is going to have a hard look at what's going on because it's one thing to lose to Santa Barbara. It's another thing to lose to Butler, and that was at home in particular, and that was 2-1. They now sit at 5-4-1.
Portland at number 17.
Yeah, and Portland is 6-1-2, all right, doing a great job out west, and you got to kind of watch them. They're kind of sneaking up on everybody.
Then you got NC State, Brown, and Old Dominion. Let's take a look at the final 5. Northwestern creeping up, but how about Drake?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Drake's another one that has creeped up, and we'll see them on the air later on. As a matter of fact, they play Evansville in the first of 2 matches this weekend, but they had a 1-0 win over Western Illinois. They're 6-3-1, first time in the top 25.
And at number 25, Mr. Bull still scoring goals.
Yeah, he's scoring goals for UMBC, but the Retrievers did have their first loss last week against Vermont, 3-1 in Vermont. They came back, beat Stony Brook 2-0. They're sitting at 10-1-0.
All right, it's conference season, which means big-time conference games are going on, but also a focus on the regional alignment. Tell us what it means.
Yeah, what we're seeing here, this is the 8 regions in the country. Now, they just got realigned a couple years ago because what's happened is that the conferences have gotten so big that you're playing many teams that are further away. So the NCAA and the NSCAA wanted to make sure that the teams within the regions, there was more common games between them. So what's happening, regional rankings have more validity to them, hence, of course, the national rankings. And on top of that, also is the postseason awards now. They're voting for, the Players of the Year and the All-Americans and the coaching awards all now come within teams that play each other more often.
And then they funnel through the regions, the awards do, and the rankings to get to your final piece of the pie, right, for awards and where you finish up.
No, exactly. And that's one of the things. And I think what we'll see, too, is that the rankings, right, which are different from the RPI, and the RPI is one of the big things used for NCAA selection, the rankings and RPI are going to come a lot closer together than they've been before. And, of course, the first RPI coming up on the 13th of this month.
All right, they say defense wins championships, and, of course, the goalkeeper will take the spotlight this week for the NSCAA Men's Player of the Week.
Yeah, this was Sean Kelly. Had 2 shutouts, a big shutout and the upset win over Maryland at 2-0, and then a shutout over the Tribe from William & Mary. Sean Kelly, without question, one of the best goalkeepers in the country.
Well, we thought we'd bring you highlights of West Virginia, Connecticut, but those are the highlights right there. Excessive rain in the game preceding this one between West Virginia Syracuse women made it unplayable here at Dick Gillespie Soccer Stadium. And there is no game. I'm Dean Linke, along with our sideline reporter, Amara Parsegian, and my broadcast partner, Keith the Batsnake. And let me tell you, folks, the skies opened up, making this game unplayable. Amara Parsegian, you were down on the sideline hoping to get this going. You heard the coaches interacting. Why'd they make this decision? Well, during the women's game, they said they were going to decide last minute if they were going to go with play. They thought it was too dangerous for these athletes to be out there. It was too wet. Although they were deciding this while the women were playing, so you got to wonder, you know, what's going on down there. But it was all for the athletes' safety, and that was their call. So they're going to make it up tomorrow. That would be Saturday as you're watching this wrap-up show. Keith the Batsink, you've played in some pretty bad conditions, but they certainly were worried about the athletes' safety, as Amara just pointed out, and actually it's still raining pretty hard. Yeah, it's still raining. I think the forecast has rain going for a little while. I mean, down on the field's probably, 60% of it's fine. It's the 40% that's the problem. And I have to think that both coaches feel that it actually would hurt their style of play as well. Connecticut in particular plays, 80% of their game on the ground. West Virginia's got some great attacking players, goes at you on the ground. I think that they're both feeling they'd rather have a better field. They're able to play tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And I think that had a lot to go, with that. In the end of the day, it was really the officials' decision that it was, unplayable and unsafe. So then tomorrow, 2 storylines, of course, the weather and how the field responds, but then also the fact that Marlon LeBlanc in his 4th year at West Virginia looking for 4 straight over UConn. That's not easy. No, it's not easy at all. And as a matter of fact, it's not just 4 straight, but if you just bring it into this year, they're playing for first place in the Big East in the Red Division. And, I think that's really what's on the line for them. And I think the Blue Division, excuse me. And they're, looking for that right now because both teams are going to be fighting to the end. If you're in the top 2 in the Big East in your division, you get a bye in the first round of the playoffs. All right, Amara Parsegian, you came in town a little bit early, went to the West Virginia practice. Obviously, those players were pretty fired up about this matchup. They were, although, in fact, last night they had to move their practice indoors because of the weather, but today was an absolutely beautiful day. I knew that they were really getting ready. West Virginia was very excited about their defense. I know the goalie was excited, Zach, just to get out there and play. And they were ready. They were prepared for this weather. They know. I talked to Coach, and he said they just want more direct play in weather like this, but unfortunately, we're not going to get the chance to see it tonight. They'll have their chance tomorrow. The key word was the word was beautiful because it certainly was not pretty here tonight. Keith the Batsik, your final thoughts on what didn't happen here tonight? Yeah, well, what didn't happen was unbelievable, actually, But, that rain, I mean, it came down. There was a lightning strike, 10, 15 minutes into the second half of the women's game, and that was the only lightning strike that we saw all night. Delayed the women's game for 30 minutes, and then it really just came down. It's the still water. You can play on the ground. You can play direct. That ball's going to stop once it hits the water. And we saw, in the women's game, a bunch of players taking some spills. And I think at the end of the day, we've all played in worse weather, but nobody wants to play in this, and they had the opportunity to play tomorrow. All right, let's hope next week as we take a look at the next broadcast as part of the men's package, the weather will be a little bit better up in Binghamton as the Binghamton Bearcats take on the Boston University Terriers. Our second look at BU. Coach Neil Roberts hoping to get a win on FSC. For my sideline reporter, Amara Parsegian, my broadcast partner, Keith the Batsik, I'm Dean Linke saying so long and reminding you that today's NSCAA Men's College Soccer Review is presented by, of course, the National Soccer Coaches Association of America. The world's largest single-sport coaching organization, the NSCAA is dedicated to providing the best in soccer coaching education. Visit www.nscaa.com for more information.